Thursday was the start, as I mentioned, of the 3-week period leading to Tisha B'Av, called Bein HaMitzarim, between the straits. Mishnah Ta'anit teaches us, Chamisha Dvarim er'u et avotenu b'Sheva-Asar b'Tammuz uva Tisha B'Av. There were 5 calamities that happened to our ancestors on Sheva-Asar b'Tammuz, and 5 more that happened on Tisha B'Av. B'Sheva-Asar b'Tammuz nishbaru haluchot uvatel hatamid v'huvka'a ha'ir v'saraf apitomes et haTorah v'ha'amid tselem b'heichal. On Sheva-Asar b'Tammuz, the tablets that Moshe brought from Sinai were broken. The Roman authorities stopped the daily offering in the temple. The city walls of Jerusalem were breached, and the general Apitomos publicly burned a Torah scroll, and an idol was placed in the Heichal, in the sanctuary. But Tisha B'Av nigzar et avotenu shelo yikanes la'aretz, v'harav habayit barishona uva shniya, v'nilkada beitar, v'nechrasha ha'ir, mi shenichnas av, me'amatin b'simcha. So those who enter the month of Av, next week we will be announcing the month of Av, they lower their joy. Because on Tisha B'Av, the 5 things were that the generation in the wilderness was decreed they would not enter the land. The temple was destroyed the first time and the second time. Beitar was captured by the Romans, and the city of Jerusalem was plowed under and salted to be a sign that it should never, ever be rebuilt. After the destruction of the second temple, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yehoshua, and Rabbi Akiva ascended to the Temple Mount. They went to Jerusalem to bear witness to what had happened. They arrived at Mount Scopus, and the smoke by this point had dissipated. The fires had ceased. The rocks showed signs of burn marks. And if you go to Jerusalem now, you can still see by the Masorti Kotel those rocks that have fallen from the top into the area at the base of the mountain. When our sages arrived at the temple site, each was overcome by emotion, and they tore their clothes in a sign of sadness and despair, and they stood there, unable to move, unable to stop looking at the destruction that had happened. But as they stood there, a fox ran out of the location where the Holy of Holies once stood, and Rabbi Akiva began to laugh. It wasn't some nervous reaction. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Yehoshua were horrified. They said, "Why would you laugh when we are looking at this?" And Rabbi Akiva turned their questions back to them. He said, "This is the place that it's written where a stranger who comes near will die. And now there are foxes running out of it. And I'm laughing because I know prophecy comes true." Isaiah prophesied, "I will take to me faithful witnesses, Uriah HaKohen and Zechariah." And what is the connection between them? Uriah prophesied during the first temple, and Zechariah prophesied during the second temple. He returned to Zion from Babylonia, and the fulfillment of Zechariah's prophecy is dependent upon the fulfillment of Uriah's prophecy. Uriah taught us, "For your sake Zion will be plowed, Yerushalayim will become rubble, the Temple Mount will become a place like a forest." We learn this in the words of Micha, "and foxes will be found there." But Zechariah taught, "Elderly men and women will sit and be joyous in the streets of Jerusalem." Until Uriah's prophecy about the destruction was complete, I was afraid that the prophecy of Zechariah would never come true. But now, as I see this fox, I see Uriah's words have come true, and it's clear to me that someday Zechariah's prophecy will also come true. And the other sages who stood there with him said to him, Akiva, you have comforted us. You have comforted us. We entered these 3 weeks of mourning, focused on sadness, on what we have lost in our history. But we focus on Zechariah's prophecy, which does not end in sadness. In the future, our days of mourning will be turned to joy. We may begin now in the straits, but we know there is light at the end of the tunnel. Shabbat Shalom. We continue, page 354, Chatzi Kaddish, Rising as Abel.